So just when I thought I was out, he pulls me back in. Morio Kishimoto, Sonic Frontiers director, who previously announced he was finished posting, has returned to Twitter, once again transparently responding to everyone and giving out some huge pieces of news along the way. Now, it might seem like a quick return because we just finished what's now the first of 3 waves of Kishimoto update news, but we had only just caught up. It's actually been a few months that he wasn't active, but right now, my man's is going off. He's talking about the new and in progress feature changes for update 2 and 3, explicitly saying the release date, which is less than a month away, new changes to the islands, entirely changing the physics for Frontiers, and even giving the most info we've gotten about the sequel yet. Like usual, I'm only going to be taking the ones relating to the update with some other interesting tidbits of Sonic news. Kishimoto has once again given us open transparency and honesty, and I'm so excited to cover it all. But first, I have to tell you about today's sponsor, Opera GX. This is a genuine integration because a few months ago, popular browser randomly stopped working right, which everything, even reinstalling, did nothing. So I switched over to Opera GX, and this browser just keeps getting better. You guys like Sonic mods? That's cute. Why not level up and try a browser mod? There's keyboard and browser sounds, colors and themes, shaders for web pages, a mod loader to enable and disable on the fly, and yes, there's even Sonic mods. Opera GX allows you to import all the settings and passwords from any other browser you have, and it also has GX control, which will limit your browser's wasted CPU and RAM, making everything from gaming to editing this video in Premiere go much smoother. It also has not only its own extension store, but also supports every single Google Chrome extension as well. It's free, and more importantly, it's awesome and supports me, so make sure to use my link when downloading and give it a shot. You can always try it, and if you don't like it, it's easy to uninstall. But if I switched, I bet you will too. Check out the link in the description, and thank you to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. Now quickly, for this video to do moderately well, I am forced to have you like and sub, but I also just launched memberships with a bunch of awesome perks, all for $7, $1 less than Twitter. You can join below next to the subscribe button. Give me money. Now, let's get into the video.
Hey, yo, it's the Sun Show.
So first, I'm not going to tease you or hold back, at least not any more than I already have, because the very first tweet is directly about the release date. Kishimoto confirms what me and others have been thinking in response to a user who writes, "I'm just wondering, when will the second update come out?" And Kishimoto chimes back, "A hint about the timing of when we can deliver update 2 to everyone is that the content called Sonic's Birthday is included in the released update 2. That means ... which, with how naturally witty and funny his writing style is, I'd honestly love to see how Kishimoto wrote a character like Sonic, beyond just directing the game. But back to the tweet, yes, the update is likely dropping on or around June 23rd, aka Sonic Origin Plus's release, and aka me and Sonic's birthdays. This is to be expected. I mean, it's literally called Sonic's Birthday. What did you guys expect? And speaking of the updates, we actually get a new feature that Kishimoto is working on for update 3. So a user writes, "Were there any plans to add things like rolling or make Frontier more focused on momentum and adventure before pivoting towards boosting in open zones? Sorry for the bad translation." And Kishimoto responds candidly, writing, "Hello, thank you for translating into Japanese. That part bothered me a lot. However, listening to everyone's stories, I was able to create an image that would solve the problem. Unfortunately, it didn't make it in time for this update, but please look forward to future updates." Which comes off as bittersweet news, but with context is fully good. So it's now confirmed for sure that Spindash and physics are something they're really going to change. It's not just something Kishimoto aspires for future titles. But the seemingly bad news is he says it won't be in this update, so many online are presuming he's referring to it being in update 3. However, this tweet is actually resurfaced from a bit after update 1 released, so he's actually referring to update 2 here. And that theory gets backed up more in the next tweet, where he continues on that exactly in response to a user who writes, "Hello Kishimoto-san, I've seen Spindash files in Sonic Frontiers. Do you think it could add momentum if added in a future update? Can it be added as another momentum mode? Thank you." And Kishimoto, stunned, dropped his first reply writing, "Oh my god, you found out!" Kishimoto, we all know about the Spindash files. Did you not know that we knew? He continues writing, "Actually, we tried to include it in the first update, but decided that it didn't live up to everyone's expectations, so we're working on improving it for the second update. I'm telling you because I found out. But it's okay to have expectations. W," which apparently in Japanese is their equivalent to LOL. And that's important context because we're going to see that a lot across these tweets. This also confirms my theory that we aren't going to have to wait until update 3, like I've seen almost everyone reporting. But instead, Spindash is going to be in update 2, and if it was almost finished in March when that tweet was made, that part of the update is certainly finished now. And he replies again to the same user writing back, "Thank you very much for your reply and information. We all appreciate your work very much." And Kishimoto responds, "I was worried about the part during the production of the main story," which what he's referring to with this is again the Spindash and enhanced physics, something he continues writing. But I decided to take on the challenge after hearing everyone's opinions here. The things that are currently being developed have expanded the enjoyment of the open zone even further, and I myself am surprised. Thanks for all your suggestions. Please look forward to it. And this is a Kishimoto W, but it's definitely not the last one, as his next reply is potentially an even bigger W, since it involves the return of our beloved Chao Garden in the next game. So a user writes, "Hello Kishimoto, out of curiosity, you mentioned in your previous answer that Chao Garden could return in the future. Is this a feature you actually want implemented in the next game, or is it just wishful thinking for both the fans and you? Interested in your take on the garden feature as a whole? Question mark." And Kishimoto gives a decently lengthy reply writing, "This is a part that I thought about many times during the production of the main story. It is an attractive item that goes very well with the open zone. It's difficult with the scale of the update, but I also hope that there will be a chance to create an environment that we can actively consider in the next game." Meaning, he does what the big boys upstairs say, and if he gets the green light to direct an adventure game, the Chao Garden fans are cooking. That said, he doesn't explicitly say adventure, and while that would be the most likely opportunity, if it is locked up with legal tape, a Koco farm would be a welcome alternative to me. Even if Chao aren't in the next game, just give us something. Even though I personally never liked Chao Gardens, I'm really only sticking up for you guys. Now, this next one is something that actually impressed me. So a user sends Kishimoto this video of their speedrun using homing dash, and they write, "I'm playing the 1-6 Skyrail cyberspace stage. What do you think about people playing Sonic Frontiers at high speeds and using bugs like homing shots? Thank you. Sorry for the bad translation." Which previously, I've never seen the homing shot used this effectively, and it must have impressed Kishimoto because he responded with 3 tweets writing, "Hello, thank you for translating into Japanese. I believe that everyone is free to use or not to use the homing shot. This is where I found out that everyone is having fun in a variety of ways to play. However, I noticed that the product version did not support that way of playing. Therefore, in update 1 this time, we added a mark so that you can check whether you cleared using homing shot or not. This is so that you can use this mark as a landmark for how you enjoy playing. By the way, there are no advantages or disadvantages to having this mark, so please continue to enjoy your free play style," which Kishimoto refuses to say, but there is one very big disadvantage to having this mark, and that's if you aren't able to beat the level without homing dash, I will personally go find you and physically destroy the system you played Frontiers on. Now, this next tweet by far got the most traction of them all, and even had a few articles written on it. So a user writes, "Will Ian Flynn be involved in the new story in Sonic Frontier Update 3? And is the new story an original idea you decided after the game, or something that didn't make it into the original release?" And Kishimoto responds, "Of course Ian Flynn will write it. Although Sonic Frontier has a huge amount of settings, there are many episodes that cannot be told. Now that we've decided on which episode to go with, I'm sure we'll be able to meet everyone's expectations." Now, I'm not sure why this seems so significant to so many people. Many are like, "Did you hear it, guys? A new story!" Which they literally put on the 2023 roadmap. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Kishimoto even begins with "of course" since it's so obvious. Also, quick prediction time. The new story, it's just going to be something involving the 4th island in a new ending. Now next, Kishimoto gives us an explanation for the codename of Frontiers, aka Sonic Rangers. So a user writes, "Was the game originally going to be called Sonic Rangers as we thought? Before the name Sonic Frontiers," that's what they wrote, "was revealed to the public?" And Kishimoto responds, "Rangers is the development codename for Sonic Frontier. The content of the game was already decided before I took over as director. When I became the director, the content of the game was changed to be something completely different, but the development codename stayed the same, so Rangers ended up being something completely unrelated to the content of the game." Meaning 2 huge things. 1, the codename Rangers did have some sort of significance and meaning to the game, but in the process of development was changed so much that whatever it was originally referring to isn't in the game anymore. The second big thing is that Kishimoto wasn't the original director for Frontiers, so apparently after the failure failure of Forces. Critical failure, I mind you, it did sell decently. But after that, they got another director, we don't know who. And whatever he did clearly wasn't working and the vision wasn't coming out right. So they went and brought Kishimoto back in, which is why in a previous video a few weeks back, he said if Frontiers didn't work, he wouldn't be able to direct Sonic games. It's not that Frontiers was his last shot, it's that Forces was his last shot and this was his second chance. Meaning, kinda epic that he pulled it around, am I wrong? So the original Sonic Frontiers, aka Sonic Rangers, is an entirely different game that we know nothing about. I don't know, I find that pretty interesting. Next, Kishimoto opens up about how the open zone will evolve in the next mainline Sonic game in 3 replies to a user who writes, in the next Sonic title, what kind of efforts are you making to greatly evolve open zone? It's been a long time since I started working on Sonic, but it seems that the direction has not yet been decided. Out of the 6 games you directed, only 2 did critically well, which bothers me. Into that, Kishimoto dropped his 3 massive replies writing, at first, we thought that the evolution of the open zone would be separate from the update and in the next game, but after talking with everyone here, we are starting it with an unplanned update. Specifically, you'll be able to check some of them in the second update, meaning there's possibly a 4th update that wasn't planned and is just going to happen now, or he's referring to features that weren't planned being added into update 2. Either way, we're eating, so I don't really care which one it is. He continues in a second reply that, I'll be honest, didn't make sense in my first read, but it says, also, of the 2 films that received good reviews, the first one was able to receive a good evaluation without being particularly conscious of it. After that, I directed 2 movies that didn't get good reviews. I know the strategies and tactics for that, and it's safe to say by films he's referring to the 2 games that were successful, and he finishes this thought in his third and final reply writing, from the beginning, I was convinced that this title would get better reviews than the first. You know the results, and in the next work, we will make it even better. I already know the answer to what to do, and if I can't do that, I don't think I will take over as director. Which, he had me until the last line, then I got confused. However, it sounds like he's talking about the future, because past, future, and present tenses are hard to translate, but he's actually talking about what happened on Sonic Frontiers, and why Sega brought him back to take over. That said, it also kinda sounds like he's on a per game basis, meaning Sonic Forces was strike 2, and if he fumbles again and gets strike 3, he's out of here. Next, he does another chain of replies, this time 4 of them, and giving us details of not just gameplay features, but upgrades to the islands as a whole. So this was prompted by a user writing, hello, I'm sorry, but let me ask you a question. Why was Kronos divided into 3 islands? Emoji? To which Kishimoto drops reply 1 of 4 writing, hello, as you might guess, Kronos was originally an island. When we did playtests in the early stages of production, we received a lot of feedback from testers saying that the islands were too big and it was boring. It's all grass all the time, just like me.
Smoke.
And boring, unlike me. Various modifications and ideas were incorporated to solve this problem, but one of them was to make the island smaller and to move to the next island before getting tired of the scenery of the first island to play and enjoy the scenery. We decided to divide Kronos Island into parts so that players wouldn't get bored not only with the gameplay, but also with the appearance. With these bug fixes, we were able to get a positive evaluation in the next playtest, and it became the current shape where the island becomes wider as you go further. However, as everyone has pointed out here, I also agree that the climax of Uranus, the largest island, lacks excitement and becomes repetitive. We are currently working on an update for this issue as well. And no, you see, he's not referring to something else being large and wide, but Uranus, the 4th island. God, you guys disturb me sometimes. This tweet alone confirms a lot is going to get added on the 4th island, and with all the abandoned platforms around there, this is a huge area for improvement since it currently feels like Frontiers only has 4 islands, maybe even 3.5. Next is my favorite response, and it's to a user responding to the thread we just read, and they write, Giganto was also featured at the Supreme area. Will it be possible to release this version of Kronos or an earlier build at some point? And Kishimoto gives his first response writing, the build in which Giganto appeared in the Supreme area was around the time when Kronos Island was still one big island. This is a build that was not well received in playtests, so I'm embarrassed and I don't think I'll publish it.
Nervous smile.
In the original poster, press harder writing, half of the items on the island are missing due to some missing files, but they are still fun in previous versions of Kronos. And they included this picture, to which Kishimoto responds, giving a short, quick little quip writing, oh my god, it's embarrassing. embarrassing!
Face covered by hands emoji.
And I find this hilarious because you know what's more embarrassing? Exactly 2 days after posting this, finding out your Twitter likes are public. Something Kishimoto had to learn the hard way with him liking some Jav videos. Yes, that's the term. And let's just say they're videos you kiddos would not be allowed to watch. Everyone was talking about it and making jokes, and it is pretty hilarious. It got so big, in fact, that it even started trending, so Kishimoto eventually responded with maybe the slickest response to something like this I've ever seen. So he writes, "Oh my god, thank you for teaching. I don't know why NSFW is my like W, which is lol, but this is
Sensual.
harassment. I must sincerely apologize. Also, I still don't fully understand Twitter, so it was helpful. Thank you again." And if he genuinely wants to learn, I'd be willing to help inform him on why this video showed up on his personal account's likes. I think I have a pretty solid theory in mind. But let's be honest, he's so real for this. Mad respect to the king for taking another W. However, this wasn't taken as a W by everyone, and someone made a tweet that got a lot of traction where Kishimoto wasn't even tagged, but somehow found it anyways and made a chain of 3 replies to the original post that writes, "Morio Kishimoto is a talented Sonic team director and game designer tasked with helming Sonic Frontiers, Forces, Lost World, and Colors." But I think it wasn't necessary for the fandom to point out that he liked sexy tweets just for fun, like any normal person. I love how this user is making it sound like the average person publicly likes these videos on their personal accounts. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. And Kishimoto opens his heart and drops 3 replies writing, "I apologize for disturbing you all this time. It's embarrassing. I started Twitter because I was sure that everyone would enjoy this game. Just like how we use playtesting in the making of this game, we'd like to hear your opinions here. In order to aim higher for the next directional work, actually I decided to start with an update. I thought that I needed the opinions of more people than just the playtest testers. Despite this, I am reflecting on the fact that I did not intentionally create noise in such a discussion with everyone, but I have sent it out. I'm sorry." Which, it's fine, dude. I understand. You saw a fire video and wanted to go back to it later. You didn't know likes were public, which, now that you know, you don't have to stop using Twitter, but bookmarks will be a lifesaver to you, my friend. Please heed my warning. I think we all still respect Kishimoto. I understand a brother sometimes gotta unleash his internal white demon to focus on making the best update possible. And while sinful, who am I to blame a genius like Kishimoto? He's just like on another plane of existence than us. Now this next one is a pretty hype one, as he directly acknowledges a handful of mods showcased in a video by Blue Vivacity. They feature flail falling physics, tricks during homing attack, just like that one game that Twitter still adamantly hates. The name is just on the tip of my tongue. Plus, stomp reset, disable hit stop whatever you attack, something I love, drop dash on double jump, which is the only one I don't really like, tighter jump rotation, retain momentum when jumping, and disable jump board paths, something I'm mixed on. Like, I hate when you get locked into a 2D stage and you can't leave, but I'd also prefer if it was a button to release the lock, rather than making those sections entirely unplayable. And Kishimoto responds to this writing, "I saw the video. It's amazing. I was surprised that Sonic's behavior could be so freely. I will consider it." And this is a massive W, because if we can get official movement that's even half as good as these mods, we will be cooking. Most of these probably won't be in an update, but the chances for these in the next mainline title are high. Next, we get more news about specific feature tweaks from a response to a user writing a document to Kishimoto, which it's not necessary to cover because Kishimoto recaps it in his 2 replies writing, "I have read the report. Thank you for your detailed suggestions regarding the combat system. Open Zone made it necessary to add a battle element to a Sonic game, and I tried to work on it in earnest for the first time. But after reading this report, I was able to imagine that there is still room for further evolution and refinement. Your comments have been very inspiring. We will continue to work on the rest of these updates as much as possible, and we will continue to work towards the completion of Sonic game battles, with an eye on the next game. And boy howdy, I am rowdy for this next mainline game." And while the info is cloudy, Kishimoto is giving it quite loudly.
I'm Carl Azus. This is going off the rails.
Next, a user talks about something a lot of fans wanted in Frontiers release, writing, "During the development of Sonic Frontiers, was Sonic running on water considered for this game?" And Kishimoto answers with, "I did it with Unleashed in Colors, so I considered running on water. At first, I was thinking of using the water as an adventure stage." Guys, he said it. He said the words. Adventure stage, he said the words. "So I made preparations not to run on water. But in the first place, it took time to figure out how to use the land to make it more interesting as a Sonic game. I gave up underwater." And that's fine and all, but Kishimoto, we don't want underwater. Literally, All we want is when you dash to turn collision on the water and add a splashing effect. I can speak for almost everyone and say we do not want some sluggish underwater stage. When we say running on water, we mean running on top of water, like our Lord when he was alive, Lord Jeebus. Now, this next one is something I think is super important to keep in mind when requesting changes and alterations to Frontiers. So, there's an entire thread of back and forth suggestions that a couple users write, and it's not really relevant because Kishimoto ended the thread with some wisdom, writing, "Thank you for your feedback. As you said, mainstream Sonic games are platform driven. The adoption of open zones allows for a new approach to tactical combat. Don't worry, we will carefully consider the evolution to a full-fledged battle." And the big drop he gives is his second response, writing, "If you want to focus on fighting alone and evolve it, you should put it together as a separate title. Will it evolve? We would like to offer you more." And it may not seem like it, but this is a huge W. Everyone keeps trying to push these different game genres onto Sonic, when Sonic only works as a hybrid of a few key formulas. If you want a game focused on a fleshed out combat system, then go play a different game. They exist. I know they don't have funny blue hedgehog in them, but once you finish wiping up your tears, you'll be able to see there's other games out there that aren't just platformers for kids. Like, we've got to let Sonic be Sonic. Now, next is a huge W for Sonic Team as a whole, as well as the quality of the next title. So, a user writes a screenshot of his translation, making it almost impossible for me to retranslate it, but Kishimoto gives us all the context we need, writing, "Staff credits are listed for those who were involved even a little. I would be happy if the next game could be developed on this scale. If it can be realized, I think the development credit at the time will exceed 300 people.
Cheeky smiley face.
Which, with game development, generally the more the merrier is a good rule of thumb for teams, that is, until the project ends and a majority get laid off. But for Sonic Team to have a better release than Frontiers and put even more polish into it, a larger team is necessary." Next, he responds to a question which many of us had at launch, and that's wondering what the purpose of Eggman's massive bases are, since there's no way you can interact or enter it. And Kishimoto responds with, "Hello, Eggman's memo could be obtained by fishing. Since the place we're big is also in cyberspace, it fits the world setting. It sure would be nice to enter Eggman's base, explore it, and take notes. In my opinion, this is definitely a wasted opportunity. But if more cosmetics do get added, this would be a great place to go to purchase them with in-game points and equip them. Then they would have a purpose." Next, Kishimoto responds to a clinical psychologist offering some free counseling with, "How is the online experience with fans around the world? Does it feel intense, fun, helpful?" And he makes a huge breakthrough in his counseling session, writing, "At first, I didn't really understand Twitter, but I wanted to somehow tell you that Sonic games will change from this game, so I started it. I never imagined that interacting with you would be such a fun and exciting experience. I am so grateful to be able to interact with all of you here." And Kishimoto has shared a lot since joining Twitter. He's even shared us his preference in spicy videos. Next, he teases a bit about the Koco in Update 2 in response to a user writing, "It would be interesting if Lost Koco Mission comes out in Update 2. A minigame that feels like a device that activates when you loop on the pedestal of the ancients and leads you to Koco, the lost child. How is it?" To which I have no clue what that question means. But Kishimoto gives us a tasty response, writing, "Delicious! Please play and check what kind of Koco is in the second update and what kind of play it is. But your idea is very attractive. Zamzaddy, your idea, it's got me feeling some sort of way." I mean, Kishimoto even called it delicious and attractive. Next, Kishimoto gives an update to how successful Sonic Team's mission of bringing Sonic to the West is. This is in response to a user writing, "Hi Kishimoto, I remember that one of the goals of Frontiers was to expand the reach of the franchise in Japan and Asia. Based on your analytics, can you say that the release of Frontiers has improved that? As a fan from the West, this is interesting." And Kishimoto writes back, "In Japan, this game sold 7 or 8 times more than the titles I've worked on in the past. This is still a small number compared to Europe and the United States, but I am confident that it will be successful. I would like to give my impression to everyone who played in Japan. I don't know about Asian people, because I don't have past comparison data," which kind of doesn't really answer the question because he was asking how well it did in the West, and he's saying, yeah, it did really good in Japan. I mean, that's cool, Kishimoto, but Japan's not the West. We all know Sonic Frontiers is a hit, but this is still great news and only the beginning of it, as this next game is likely going to be far bigger, and it being successful in all markets is a really good sign for actually appropriate amount of funding. OMG, guys. Cross your fingers for no pop-ins, which is a reminder they intentionally coded into the game. And for the last and final tweet tweet before we are all caught up. Kishimoto gives us an idea of how big the update team is in response to a user who writes, "Hi Kishimoto, I have a short question. How many people are currently working on Sonic Frontier Update 2 and 3? I'm a little bit curious, so any answers would be appreciated." And many answers were given as Kishimoto writes, "Hello, the update team is about 60 people. It's not like a big development scale, but for this update, I'm working on it while listening to everyone's opinions, so I feel like I'm working with many times more allies."
Star emoji.
So it is a small team, which is good because it means the main team is working on something else, hopefully the next mainline game. But it does mean these updates are going to be awesome. However, don't expect a full second game to come out of this. I'd say expect an extension of like a quarter of the main game, no more than that. And that's all for today. Do the thing, like, sub, and right next to that sub button is a join because I launched memberships with exclusive videos. Do you like my editing and want to know how to edit? Because I have a guide for that at my higher tier, and I'm going to be reviewing content people send me so that collectively we can make this platform a better place. And it supports me. Give me the money. That's all. Follow socials, Discord, whatever. I don't care. Lots of love and peace.
Peace.